It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. And we can never forget that. And I never have.
I just want to react to Joe Biden's address to the nation from the Oval Office this evening. He talked a lot about history, talking about the resolute desk in the Oval Office and talking about presidents who have held office and talked about it being a sacred space. He said, I'm surrounded by portraits of extraordinary American presidents, and how Thomas Jefferson wrote the immortal words that guide this nation. And George Washington showed us that presidents are not kings. And Abraham Lincoln, who implored us to reject malice, and Franklin Roosevelt, who inspired us to reject fear. He said, I revere this office, but I love my country more. It was a very moving speech from Joe Biden. He didn't name Donald Trump directly, but he did talk about the threat to democracy and said that the best way to deal with it was that, although he believed he'd done well enough to merit a second term as president, he said he would step aside and let another candidate lead. He said the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. He said that's the best way to unite our nation. He said there's a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Very moving to talk about the size of the responsibility in this language. And he went on to say that he would continue fighting for his priorities in his final 6 months in office. And then he also said something very interesting, which I'm very pleased he did. He said he wants to pursue reforms to the Supreme Court. And as we know, the decisions that the 6-member conservative supermajority has handed down during his time in office include the reversal of Roe versus Wade, include the reversal of the Chevron decision, things that will impact us every single day. So he said, I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy. Whether he calls for it or does anything about it himself, I don't know, but it'd be very, very interesting to see how Joe Biden goes forward in these last few months, dealing with a Supreme Court that is extreme, far-right and Christian nationalist under Donald Trump's appointments. And then he repeated his endorsement of Kamala Harris that he'd made right after ending his re-election campaign. He said that the vice president is prepared to take his place. He said, in a few months, the American people choose the course of America's future. He said, I made my choice. I made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country. Now the choice is up to you, the American people. And the American people have already risen to the occasion, as we know, with a genuine support for the vice president who, whilst vice president, it's very difficult for Kamala Harris to really show who she really is. You know, she really has to stay safely behind Joe Biden. But now she's been given the license to step out in her own right. I think you're going to see a very different Kamala Harris, and one that is entirely capable of rising to the occasion of the office of president. And then as he closed his speech, Biden again alluded to the threat that he argues Donald Trump poses to America's democracy. And I'm prepared to say that most people now realize quite how serious that threat is. He said that the choice of president is up to you, the American people. And then he referenced a comment made by founding father Benjamin Franklin to indicate that he believes the fate of the U.S. system of government is on the line. He said when Ben Franklin was asked as he emerged from the convention going on whether the founders have given America a monarchy or a republic, Franklin's response was, a republic if you can keep it. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands, Joe Biden said.
The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule. The people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. We just have to keep faith, keep the faith. And remember who we are. We're the United States of America. And there's simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So let's act together, preserve our democracy.
So, a very powerful speech from a president who has served the nation not just in these last 3.5 years, but over 50 years as a public servant. A very powerful message from a very impassioned president who recognizes that whilst his moment in the spotlight is coming to an end, the Democrats now themselves need to tie up all the loose ends, expose fascism from the MAGA Republicans, expose Project 2025, expose Agenda 47, and all of these headings that are given to an agenda that is so far from what American people are used to. And that is a civilized system of government where all types are able to work in the public arena. And Donald Trump, as we know, is keen to bring down those institutions and replace those individuals with loyalists, with MAGA Republicans, with Trump supporters, so that nobody ever questions his decisions as a king, as a despot, as a dictator. I'm Anthony Davis. You can catch me on the 5 Minute News YouTube channel and podcast, on Wednesdays co-hosting Uncovered, and on Sunday on The Weekend Show with Midas Touch.